now that the lockdown has been over.
Diamond prices are low? What do you mean? Look at that glow when the sun hits your skin or your hair as the heir to the lands that we are meant to be stewards of responsibly, able to competently take care of the accounts for the house. The house that we come from is the same one we all come from because it is the all. Whatever you call the all of that, it is all. But it's uncapitalizable and unspecifiable because it's unlimited. And so there have to be exceptions made to it. There have to be categories within it that make up sub-compartments and divisions of it. And that is how we have thought the all was something other than, when it's not. The label need no longer define us so that we bleed for the sake of fighting and bearing arms in another man's war of households under a feudal system that is feud-based, because if they can take our energy by making sure that we are angry, scared, terrified, even better, as well as willing to shake and quiver, all of that is generating loosh, energy, offload, or the spillage that then gets siphoned up by entities outside of us, you see. Corporations have been the way that entities have been legalized, did you see? Probably not, because we have grown so familiar with the construct of the public thing that we don't even bring where the republic came from into the frame any longer. We just believe it to be the answer, but the public thing, or the public affair, is where the res publica that inspired the republic comes from, and it's significant. Here's why. We have been divided by the illusionary construct of us versus them. But you see, if we stop stepping into positions that position us other than we were or are, well, then we don't have to leave our private capacity where we cause no harm, loss, or fraud to one another. And when we see someone doing that in the public or private, we report it. But not just as an informant, but as one who is willing to actually seize the day, who is willing to say, I commit to living honorably. And because of that, blah, 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 she says, because of all of that, some will, some won't, who cares? Next, forward we go. The charge is not for you to like me as we go, specifically, though it would be nice, but not necessary, because when I trigger you and you need somewhere to blame for feeling worse before you get better than you've ever been, before you unraveled the paradigm that had twisted your brain into a not now moment that made you feel insane, before we did that, you were familiar with what it was like to be in your dysfunctional realm internally. And then, when you were unbound and you found yourself being free as you had never been, it was terrifying, naturally. How do you get used to something you've never had before, except to do it, and then declare yourself used to it? This is the insanity, and also the importance of proclamations that are proclamations, making claims, which we do with our names, as well as our words that go in the sentence after, we name ourselves to say, I am a real one who is calling some people from the public into their private capacity because harm is being done to those who don't see the public thing for what it is. And those working on its behalf, upholding the lie, are making us buy it hook, line, and sinker because they've been trained in marketing and manipulation of the populace based on preferences and publicity. It is time for us to see the prophecy that says we must be the ones that step into the first-person pronoun position of our own lives again, outside of public office. It's time for us to decide what our lives will be like, and to also see that is also in connection with others who are part of that universal we, that all of us belong to as the individuated expressions of the grand overall designer, creator of all that is, that created us in the likeness and image of it as a creator, not in form but in substance. That goes back to vitalism and materialism, that one of the founding thought leaders within the Western philosophy of body of wisdom, the Western philosophy body of wisdom, where's the body in a construct like that? This is where we will start to see the insanity of all that we have believed and given our power to before we saw it was powerful because we felt powerless, feeling drained and corded to that which has ported our person and plundered it. Fructing sometimes too, meaning the extracting of fruits from a rich source, also known as a quarry. Do you see that we are actually said to be agricultural units? Production houses, individual and unique into and onto ourselves? I've never said that as I just did. Alas, I did, and I say, wow, I will definitely be repeating that and wish for you to take hold of it, because when I realized recently that powerhouse, which is what we call someone that's just a rocket of passion, enthusiasm, authenticity, clarity, and encouragement, they're going for it, regardless of whether someone gives them permission or acceptance or approval to do it or not. That is what it's about. And what's really cool is that when we see that we are the powerhouses, and in the Matrix, which is like a documentary that actually tells us what's happening while making us believe it's fictional, which means not real. But then we see that we live in a universe that doesn't differentiate negatives. And so nonfiction, by definition then, would actually be focusing our energy on the fiction and therefore not have truth in sight at all, necessarily, unless the tall tale were to include the truth. Not maybe all of it, but some of it. That would be the parts that make up the sum of the whole. But then we start to see the droll of the Joker who comes in to tell the tale, like I am as I travel on roads with snow drafting over the roads, meaning I need to pay particular attention to what I'm doing, but also know that spewing what I am rhyming at the same time is valuable for those that are willing to actually unpack and decipher the codes within it. Potters. Oh my gosh. Do you know that I do believe I almost got trafficked when I was leaving I met at an optician's conference. I happened to go to one of the days of the convention in order to go to the BrainTap people, the team that were administering free sessions for conference participants. And so I ended up actually finding out where they were because I wanted to buy a unit, which I forgot because I was going to bring it to Brenda, who is aware of evoked potentials as a training program that I wasn't even aware was a thing until I meant to bring the BrainTap device, which has lights in the visor and ears. And she, as an audiologist, would be able to better explain what's going on with it. Though, once I got back out of the hospital, having returned from Arizona and called the police to report the system was corrupt and the police were in on it, but there must be some good ones and I'm here to help bring peace to this world, so take me to your leaders, which sounded really crazy, except for I'm still banging on the same drum. I just had only become aware of it back then and made that crazy call and found out not to do that one again. And also to recognize that the police officers are policy enforcers that are part of a repressive state apparatus that uphold the ideological state apparatus that actually empowers the repressive state apparatus that has a vested interest in the ideological state apparatus, aka its sponsors, to maintain and grow in working order. So, when I was out in Arizona before I got back and went through all of that, I had met this man that was a consultant at another booth, but also had the BrainTap brand and said to have been an affiliate, and also said that we were soulmates from 11 lifetimes ago, and a whole bunch of insightful information from an intuitive perspective, maybe. Or maybe he was just an incredibly manipulative and switched on man who knew how to use his hand and get someone to believe their own BS because he reframed it in such a way that it sounded even better from his lips. So anyway, Jeremiah then introduced me to a man. I didn't even know his name. I did at the time, but I didn't have his contact information. And after having spent an extra 5 days at the Hilton Embassy Suites, in a suite for more money than I'd paid for hotels generally, because I never got myself a suite, but that was the only option in order to stay there, and I could tell that the characters that were in the courtyard were literally significant players. Little did I know that that was also where the CIA, FBI would go for a conference while I was there too. But anyway, I ended up having an incredibly magical experience while I was out there, which was part of what led to that crazy call after I got back with all of the fantastically glorious, synchronistic, and seemingly magical opportunities that I was presented with through it. And anyway, I was out in Arizona for the duration of time expected, yet I was going to do business with a man I saw wanted to use my salesmanship to manipulate people into selling packages for him that I would profit off of too. That I almost got screwed by investing $15,000 American in order to obey what his publishing company would have put together by helping me ghostwrite a book that I hadn't even wanted to write before I almost made that investment, and then said, well, if I was going to invest that much money, it must be important, so let's just do it. And I intended to do it in like 30 days, and instead it took 5 years. It did get finished in 30 days, and then I finished 2 more manuscripts that year too, in fact. But I also ended up getting self-publishing school. There was a snowplow. I bought self-publishing school to know how to publish it, but then I was trying to write the book and publish it, and I was marketing it for a book launch that ultimately didn't happen on my 30th birthday. So it was an incredibly disappointing experience rather than an uplifting one. But 5 years later, in 2022, I got through it. And then last year, I put together the Justinian Deceptions information and many others to then be able to create what I'm now calling a course on leveling the playing field of consciousness, which is exciting. And when I am on my way to deliver at Vivian's Country Cookin' to 2 women specifically, I do believe, 3 actually, because Vivian will be there too, to review the course that I have spent in the last many days editing. And I didn't get done until 2 a.m. and then got back to it just after 6 when my cat decided to let me know it was time for him to have some entertainment. And that's real life now. But when I was in Arizona and all of the magic of everything was happening, and I was so blindly trusting someone I didn't even know, that I betrayed my own code of honor, as I write about in the book. But I also naively offered the same man who used and manipulated me to benefit himself. Then he told me he had a friend who would take me to the airport. And so I was thinking, after having spent so much extra money to what I was expecting on that trip for the suite and everything else, but great, I'll save like $20 or $30 to get to the airport. And I don't think I would have made it. Because the reason I told you that story is because we were at Potter's Road. And what the man that was going to drive me to the airport told me, who I didn't have his number or his details, which meant nobody else could trace him either. Told me that we were going to pot plants together because that's a fun thing to do, and I like it too, so I was excited. That sounded fun. And then afterwards I realized I probably would have been what was getting potted. And so I'm grateful that when I called home to tell my dad about all of the magic of the moment that I was experiencing and how amazing things were, Bonnie, his wife, in the background shouted, "She's gonna get kidnapped! Oh my God!" And it was the startling realization that I hadn't realized until that moment. So thank you, Bonnie, genuinely. I think you saved my life, in fact. And then additionally, I want to just point out how easy it is to be deceived, to take a good gesture or a good omen from someone and then use it against another for profits if it would have been in the human trafficking realm. But I don't understand all of that usury, which is actually an agent status in the second person of the thing that makes us, or the public thing that makes us third parties in our own affairs, that only became affairs because we let someone else call the shots for us as authorities in our lives when they have no business calling shots in our lives unless they're benefiting from them. So, with all of that said, I would simply like to say I am at Vivian's Country Cookin' for brunch. It's 11 o'clock or somewhere right around there. can't believe it was at 2021, or it was at 2020 when I turned off the car. Wow, it's all so aligned. I am just, cheers. We can totally do this.